they keep chicken. I gave draft, they can go ahead, but just saw it. I gave go, go, last week, what you can walk forward, a little change of regime. I get no, beside they go. I get, they still get seven. Okay, all about Glenn Warriors there, with the housing hall and my legislature. In the email, but not also do it. These guys, they do it, please. These are like, they done that, first this guy, do it. These are like, the ministry guys ever. And all I went to the, I'm up to the chief, I'm not going this color way, and I get the side they go so usually I only so they now leave the Korea, so I get a marshal use at the Chicago. So alright now Dennis would you wow
okay, I'm Dennis. I'm an attorney. I work at the executive branch, and housing authority is one of my areas that I work with. We've been doing these public hearings in all the districts. Last night was Reno, tonight we're here, and tomorrow night we're out in Wyola. And the reason we're doing that is a motion was made in committee to take it out to the public and let the public know about this new proposed housing ordinance. However, prior to that, I opposed this housing ordinance, opposed as written. I think it needs to be amended pretty extensively if it is going to pass. But what we're doing now, these public hearings and things like that, I think this would have been the best approach would have been to do this first and find out what the communities and the districts think about housing currently, what are some things that they want to see improvements on, what needs to be in the ordinance, then draft it. If it was going to be a complete rewrite. But we're in the situation we are now, so I'm going to try not to talk about all the things that I think are wrong with the proposed replacement, but I will tell you that I think that the existing ordinance is old, and then that's the primary reason that you'll hear people say they want to replace it is because it's old. But if you ask what's wrong with it exactly, there's really not much. There's some language that needs to be updated because it references general counsel, but you replace general counsel with legislature and it's pretty much good to go. Appointment of the board is something that is done by the executive branch and then confirmed by the legislative for every other board and committee that exists. And this one has a completely different setup. And we learned last night that this was actually proposed back in 2011.
No. June of 2014.
Right, but remember what Kenny was saying at the Reno
That
district?
may not be correct.
Okay, well, there's a rumor that this may have been proposed previous to this and turned down. But take that for what it's worth. So I'm just going to try to make myself available if you have any questions about this ordinance or the existing ordinance. Please feel free to ask me. Dawn is the legislative attorney. She is promoting this ordinance and then also amendments. What we're trying to do is take notes of the comments that we get from each district, and we're going to try to incorporate those into whatever draft comes out of this, be it updating the old one or passing the replacement here.
Legislature lawyer walk open up, Don Gray, and Jay Harris will I don't want that to take over the house, so Don Gray.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Senator Fox. I just wanted to mention that the proposed ordinance you have in front of you that has the draft on it, that's currently what's on the floor of the legislature. It's in committee right now with the infrastructure committee chairperson, which is Brandon Goodluck. I started in my position October 1st, 2014, and since I've been there, I haven't had any dealings or workings with this ordinance until probably we started up again late fall, early winter. And so it was proposed June of 2014, and that was by a petition pursuant to the new constitution. It was a petition by the voters. 10% of the eligible voters out in Wyola district signed this legislation, and so that's how it made it to the floor of the legislature. So it's kind of been sitting there waiting for some workup. The current housing ordinance that we're operating under, as you can see, is in the old typeface language, and that's 64, 68,
64.
amended 78.
8.
And so one of the reasons it was amended in 78 is because of Newton has the law that came out. So there was a little bit of change there. One of the concerns that we have as a legislature while this legislation is pending is bringing the old ordinance into conformity with the 2001 Constitution. And so we're not one government per se, as in one branch. We have 3 branches of government. And how do you bring an old housing ordinance into conformity with the new check and balance system of the 3 branches? Dennis and I have had a number of conversations since the district meetings have started, and they've been very informative to the public. They are very thought-provoking. Last night we were in Reno, and we had a number of community members step up and actually propose their suggestions to this ordinance. So I would hope that the community here feels the same way too, because this is your law, this is your ordinance, this is what we want to be governed by. Hence us going out to the communities. So I think it was a real smart move that Senator Hill moved this out to the districts. And so I really think that that's probably a monumental objective of getting the people involved in how they want to be governed. Some of the questions that came up in the previous meetings, we met out in Lodgegrass, out in Black Lodge in Reno so far, is drugs in the housing units and how that's going to be dealt with. When are we going to get new housing built? How is the funding working under the IHP plan, which is the Integrated Housing Plan every year? Standard housing, how it's built, so it's not substandard. So last night we had a community member that said, we don't want homes built and they're disposable. We want something that's going to last. There was a discussion on rent. Who's paying rent and what the value of that is versus somebody that's not paying rent. What's the problem with the eviction process? And so one of the key things that Dennis and I are going to be working hand in hand with this is that to ensure that there is a very good legislation that covers due process. So, for example, if somebody's using drugs in the home but are not on the lease, how much responsibility of that is going to be, or who's going to be liable for that is on that lease or is at home. We want to make sure that all those individuals get due process, but yet ensuring that the proper sanction is involved in that behavior. So, and that also includes your 3rd branch, which is the judicial system. We have a small section in the Law and Order Code, and actually I think I should have printed that out for everybody, but it has a section in the Crow Law and Order Code for evictions, and that procedure I think we're going to have to outline a little bit more so that we do give due process, fair notice, Because what's key to the due process and fair notice is to, if you have a really good process and you complete it and it's documented, when the board goes out and does their sanction or evictions, they're actually going to be backed up by law. And so we want to have solid procedures and cases against folks that should not be in public housing. So anyway, those were I just kind of wanted to generate a little bit of ideas about what we've been talking about in the other communities. From a legal standpoint, we have the old ordinance, as Dennis said, which is fine for now. My opinion is we need to bring it into conformity with the 2001 Constitution. I think that there's room for improvement. There is topics that we need to deal with that are of this day and age with public housing. I believe that there's other ideas out there that we should be venturing into to increase our opportunity for housing. And so I don't want to get into too much of the legalities. We're going to continue working in the committees on the legal portions. But tonight is actually your night, so we'd really like to hear from you in the way of getting some ideas, or if you have any suggestions. This ordinance is not written in stone, and we do predict it's going to take a while to get it to where we want it to be on the floor for passage. So, Senator Hudson, with that, we'll entertain any questions, try to answer as much as we can, and just trying to garner some input or ideas.
Any questions or comments?
Okay. How are the board members, are they appointed or elected?
Well, right now, the chairman, you don't select for each district, he selects them for each district. But now we want to change it, because back before 2001, they had elections. These are the elections they solved, and when the 2001 Constitution changed, that also changed. Appoint, Jake, you appoint some, and we want to, the way we wrote it up, that the three legislatures, because we have the knowledge of our own community, that we appoint one together with all three of us, me, Lawrence, and Duke. We'll look for the best one out there in the community for that position. Okay, and then once we do that, then we take it to the full body legislature, all 18, and then we vote as the full body. So when we do that, confirmation hearing, the confirmation hearing process, that we appoint one, and to move forward, we bring them in front of probably the infrastructure committee. We bring them in front of that, and we go and question them, and why they should be given that position. And then we have them talk about their experiences and why they're right for the job. And so that's the first process there. Then we go through that confirmation with all the questions and and have them talk about their background. And when that's done, we vote within the committee to approve or not. Legislatures. And then once they're all lined up, 6 of them are lined up, then we put it in front of everybody, all 18, during session or special session. So once that takes place, then we all vote. Secret ballot, then we vote. So then board, there this week, and they'll tally it up, majority vote. They're confirmed, now they're legit, and they'll start. And we already started that process with gaming. That process is already there, and gaming means that's what the process we follow, and that's what we want to stay with. And you cage on the part of appointments.
So now the ones that are in there, how long have they been there?
3 years.
So how long do you allow them to serve?
Staggered, what I understand, staggered, what's that?
The way that the ordinance was initially drafted, it was supposed to be staggered terms. The Housing Authority was supposed to be kind of its own standalone corporation. The way that it's been working since the 2001 Constitution, because in the Constitution, the chairman has the authority to appoint boards with confirmation by the legislature. So since 2001, each incoming administration has just appointed their own, and that's the way these guys were. So there's no limit on how many years they can serve. But it's conceivable that the entire board would be replaced if there was a new incoming administration, and probably would stay the way it is.
Yeah, I think Carl Van August, when he got in at that time, one point, he pointed up and gave him a contract, like X amount of years, 2 years out, and 4 years, and some of them. They fell into the next administration, and the new administration that came in, they couldn't remove them because of that contract that was in place. And then it was up to the new administration if they wanted to extend it or get somebody else. They done a confirmation. We never, towards the legislature, we never had a confirmation for housing board. And it's just now kind of taking place now, after the game.
So it just stays the same?
Yep.
For God knows how long?
Yep. So now that's what we change. That's what we want to change and kind of give more insight to the legislatures in each community, because we know who would be capable to take that position.
I had a couple questions to add. I wanted to know, what does a housing board member do, what they're responsible for? I also had a comment about how you were talking about picking this individual. I had a suggestion that maybe two, because a lot of times our concerns, I live right in the heart of housing. My concerns aren't the same as somebody who lives 3 miles out. And that's where we're misrepresented there, because we're just misrepresented there, and I did want to know what was the criteria for the housing board person, nominee, whatever. But I wanted to make a suggestion that person have no debt, that they don't owe the tribal housing, because this person, if they owe, they're not going to be in, they're not going to say, hey, make them pay because they have a $10,000 debt themselves. So, that's something you want to make light of, and to make sure that these people are qualified in that way.
Yeah, it does have it states.
Oh, I didn't read. I just now got this. I don't have time to read it.
Number 5 of 19-2-13 qualifications. Cannot be delinquent on any required payment owed to the tribe.
Okay, well, that's great. I was just sitting here thinking out
Yeah,
loud.
so
How long if there was?
I just wanted to interject. We understand there might not be enough time to read everything. So feel free to keep commenting even after this. Let us know at the legislative branch, and like I said, you don't have to do it tonight, but if something comes up later, feel free to put your input in. We also have these forms here that were handed out, and you can actually, if you want to, were they handed out? Okay, so just fill them in and send them to the branch. You can make comment in writing tonight or later on whenever something comes up. So
Why can't they get 2 members from each district? Being that he stated that the chairman had appointed somebody, and so that goes like, why can't they get somebody from the other side too? You know?
That's an idea.
You know, to even things out and be fair, rather than one-sided. How about 2 members instead of 1? The more the merrier.
Kind of like, the chairman picks one, the people pick one. I think that's, democracy, that's third. The people pick one. I think that's the way to go. We're gonna fine tune this past on an ordinance.
I took the coaching on that.
Yeah, what the chairman picked today, you don't pick up to the deal.
Yeah.
That's
That's,
the way to go, I think.
chairman picks one and the people pick one. Of the community. How's that?
Code tabel number.
What do you think?
Just to clarify, when you say the people pick one, you mean the district representative?
Yes.
Or the, like a open?
Don't you think that's fair?
Suggestion to the legislature, relay.
Okay.
Relay and then convey to,
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
mhm.
So,
Senator Hooks, I do kind of want to bring that up. These entities are separated arm's length from the tribe. The college does elections. They're arm's length from the tribe and set up under their laws. Housing is kind of similar to that scenario on election. But the appointment, it's all up to what you want to do.
Yeah, and then with that, that was my suggestion was we should have them vote again, Not just housings, but with credit, with land, with all
I
of them.
think they all should be voted in.
Yeah.
Rather than being selected.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been kind of pushing on that for all of them. So, be more fair and
With
being elected.
stipulations that these are followed, that
Yep,
each
yep.
candidate would fit right in this,
Yep.
what you have stated. And I would want to interject here where, that they live and reside in the district.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I think, we don't want somebody deciding for us that doesn't live and reside.
Might be from Pryor, but lives in Village.
Lives in Pryor,
Yeah.
done it this morning, that's BS.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing, that they live here. I was looking at
They
that.
have to live
That's
here.
a good idea.
Know what's going on in the community.
Not just a.
Especially around the housing project.
Yeah, right.
Hello?
Not just
You
the
know?
Well, I can get my mail out there.
Oh, yeah.
That's not big either.
They actually have to live here. They select all the board members. And then they started appointing them like Carl Badley. And so we had no say. That's not fair. We all want my voice to be heard,
Or like we say, but there's not even the village has.
All right, hey, we want elections, then we can add it into the ordinance.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Shannon said? Not to be where they have a box number, not that's going to work, have a box number here and say you can vote here, not that type.
Yeah, because like right now, the election ordinance that we use, me and Lawrence use, it's kind of broad. I can live in Dunning and still run in Pryor. And you see that all over.
Yeah.
You got people living in Crow, but representing us, we thought about changing that within the ordinance. But this one is going to be particularly just for housing,
Yeah.
And if they have to live here, not really, not no place else, not part-time here, they have to live here.
Good comment, and we'll add it on there.
Okay, thank you. What about the selection, how do they go about that? Okay, if an applicant wants, how would they select that?
ROP, you guys want to speak on this?
How do they select them?
The ROP supervisor goes through the list and then say there's, the person on top of the list has 2 people on the application, but the house that's available is a 4-bedroom. They take that into consideration, and if we have someone who's disabled, they become priority. It's different things.
Okay, like I got a question here. Okay, my brother, he's a disabled veteran. And they went over him when he was already given a unit. Yeah. Well, how was that about?
So when the ROP supervisor takes it, they take it to the board too.
And then within a person that works in the health unit, has the right to put the person aside that was already approved. How does that go?
Is your question that, are you saying that your brother was living in a unit and he got kicked out?
No, wasn't living there.
Well, somebody, see what happened was that the bird got that, because, veteran and all that. But she's saying if somebody's working in the housing, got that. What kind of influence is that? I mean, you don't have anything on there on it. You should say that you cannot, if you're an employee at housing, you can't just have first priority. Just like she said, disability, first priority. Yeah, so there's a violation there already. It's what she's talking about.
That was her mother's apartment, and they wanted to keep the apartment because she passed on. And the brother,
If it's a low rental, the policies have a specific process that's supposed to be followed when someone passes on. So if it's given to, if it's, yeah, it's gotta be under, if a person's listed under certification.
meetings, and you were there, and it was already approved and was given to him. Okay.
It was,
Until it was remodeled,
yeah, no, this situation's different.
and
This situation, he wasn't entitled to the residence. You guys came to the board meeting, asked for an exception to the policy. He was offered the chance to buy it, and then he declined to purchase it.
no, it was already on paper, they waived it. They waived, what my mother owed, they waived it because he was never around. He was in the service and then he was disabled.
Yeah.
So,
That's,
he was never around the reservation until my mother was sick. And then she passed on, so we went to the housing. And then the grandson was living there for 1 whole year, selling drugs at home, and nothing was done. We kept trying to get him out of there. Nothing was done.
my knowledge of, if it comes to my attention, it's usually when it's time to file something in court or if it comes up in the board meeting. Prior to that, I don't have knowledge of the day-to-day operations of the housing authority. I know a little bit about the grandson that was living there, and I know that I drafted 2 notices terminating or evicting him, and then 1 for trespass, but it was never voted on to take it to court, so he never got taken to court. I don't know if he moved out or what happened.
Yeah, they had to take the cops over there after living there for 1 whole year, selling drugs out of there.
Yeah.
And then with the first time we've been trying to get him out of there. So nothing was done there that whole time. So that's not really enforced on the drug selling and that type of thing? That's not really enforced by the housing authority?
It's supposed to be. There's a lot of things that are supposed to be enforced by the housing authority, but sometimes aren't. A lot of the evictions.
Doesn't that fall then to the judicial branch? Then you have to call the cops and, as everybody knows, Pryor has no cops. But anyways, so doesn't that kind of work with that? I mean, so